Hey everyone, welcome to Wezesha Wednesday. As you can see, I'm donning, the English shirt. Go England. No one believed in us except my friend, Catherine. Through thick and thin, England is making it through to the final. So I'm very excited about that. I was so excited, I decided, why not do a Wezesha Wednesday? It's been a couple of weeks. Um, I haven't been consistent with them, but I'm going to try my best. As you know, over the last few weeks, we've talked about, the fumble framework, and we've applied it to just accomplishing your goals, and we've applied it to mental health. So figured I'll do another Wezesha Wednesday, but this one is a little bit different. This one is um, because I've received a lot of questions on this topic, so I thought I'd go live with it. So this one is about exploring your career options. Um, it's been a summer of graduations. I've met a lot of people who've graduated or about to graduate, and they come and ask me questions. They're like, Ichi, how do I get a job? How do I decide what career I want? I'm confused. Do I want to be a software engineer? Do I want be a product manager? Do I want to be a program manager? Do I want to be a doctor? Do I want to be a nurse? Like all these things. And so I wanted to perhaps give a few tips, some experiential tips, as well as some research based tips on how to evaluate what the career options are. So that's what we're going to talk about with Wezesha Wednesday. What is Wezesha? Again, Wezesha is just a platform whose mission is to empower through shared experiences. So, providing those structural empowerment, if you want structures, right? Structures for empowerment that then help you feel informed, give you access to information, resources, opportunity, so that you can feel empowered and go do what God wanted you or desired for you in your life, so you can fulfill your purpose. So, that aside, let's talk about career options. So, what is a career versus a job? I think that's one of the questions I want us to think about today is if I'm, you know, about to finish college, or I'm just done with college, or I'm transitioning because I lost my job, I want to change jobs, I want to change things. I think the first question to ask yourself is, what am I seeking? Am I seeking a job or a career? And I think there's a difference. A job is basically um, a set of activities for which you get paid and for which you have no primary interest in terms of like a purpose. I'm doing this job for a purpose. It's making me feel a certain way. And a lot of people like that because uh, there's the perception that it's less stress. I'm prescribed for what I need to do. I do task A, B, C, D, E, and I'm done. I get paid. For me, I think a career is something where there's more intentionality. There's the perception of growth. In some way, I'm going to continuously progress forward, and that progression may mean more responsibilities, more money, more opportunities for impact, and sometimes it's tied to something personal that you're trying to pursue in terms of your values. So I think there's a distinction between those two, but that's just me. So where do you start? And I'm going to talk in the context of, let's say, a college student, and in the context of someone who's done with college or who is probably looking for a new role. But again, that's career option, or it's the beginning of their new career. Um, and I'm gonna, with full transparency, I'll be using myself as an example, and I'll use some research and just some anecdotes to help push my point. So personally, for me, I mean, most of you know, I'm a corporate guy. I've been in corporate or worked for a corporation in some way for over 30 years, right? From right after I finished high school, I was in corporate to when, you know, to today when I'm like fully fledged in corporate. And so over the years, I've sort of reflected to try and understand what drove the career choices I've made. And I would say they boil down to perhaps three things, okay? And this is what I want to offer to anyone who's listening. One is um, interest. What is it that you're interested in? Um, Two, the second one is personality. What does your personality lend itself to? Um, and then three is skill. Like, what skill do you possess? Some of it, I would argue, is more a natured skill that can be nurtured versus a non existent skill that you try and create somewhere. So, the three of them: interest, personality, and skill. So, let's start with interest. Interest is, what is it, when you look at a job, when you look at a career, what is it that makes it interesting to you? So for me, I've always been interested in people, personality, organizations, behavior. That's always been my interest from when I was a kid, just trying to understand, why do people behave the way they do, right? And so perhaps that's what's driven me to do things like this, where I research on people, on organizations, on what we've talked about in the past, the hidden brain, to understand why is it that people act the way that they do. So that is my interest. Now, the P, which is sort of personality, I think personality also lends itself to the thing that I'm interested in, right? Engaging with people, being, trying to understand why people do the things that they do. So my personality lends itself to me being curious and being open enough to ask those questions and not be shy about talking about such topics. So that's the P. The third one is skill. Now, this one is a little bit interesting. Um, I would argue maybe my learned skill is in this domain because I've studied organizational behavior, I've studied psychology, but then I also have a skill in tech, right? That's what I do for a living. I work for a tech company, I work on cutting edge technology, and I know it. I'm pretty good at it, so my skill set lies there. So I imagine that could be confusing for a lot of people. So a lot of people who are going to college, in college, just finished college, they probably go through that sort of, am I skilled in this? How does that differ from what I'm interested in? And how does my personality come in? So I'm not here to give you any answers, but I'm here to give you assurance that that is normal. So I spoke to someone, spoke to a student, a Kenyarican the other day. Kenyarican is in computer science and deep in like one of the best institutions in the entire world, right? Studying, some deep technical ML AI stuff, right? So I'm having this conversation with this person, and they're telling me about the classes they're taking, and then they ask me about what I do, and I tell them about what I do, which is deeply technical, highly technical stuff, but also highly relational, meaning I have to talk with cross-functional teams. I have to talk with different personalities. I have to understand how to negotiate things, how to put governance around things, just some, what they call soft skills. And so this student was like, "What do you mean? You mean you can be technical and do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course. That's actually the advantage you have over other people who are nerdish and may not have that behavioral side." And so, we went back and forth, and at the conclusion of the meeting, they were like, "Oh my goodness, so I need to take these classes on leadership, on communication, on, branding myself." And I was like, "Yeah, you do." And the reason I say that is because sometimes, especially students, sometimes we are conditioned that if we want to be a software engineer, that's the only hat we need to wear. And we don't think about, when you start a career, you may be in a position where you have to present your ideas to people. So you have to learn communication, where you're going to have to negotiate with people because there's multiple priorities going on at the same time. So you have to learn negotiation skills. You have to understand behavioral skills, how to be a manager, how to be a leader. So the first lesson, or the first insight I want to give today for students is, even as you're in college and you're trying to figure out what courses to take, And it may be tempting to think that the technical courses are the only ones you should take. Start taking non-technical courses so you can understand how people act, how people behave, and more importantly, you can understand yourself and how you communicate with other people. Take those communication classes, take the speech class, take the marketing class. You may find that you have a strength that has not been tapped in because you did not take those classes. Again, I'll give an example of myself. When I finished high school, we went for BCom, whatever, came State O, and I took my first psychology class, and I was like, that's it. That's where my interest is, right? So, lesson number one, take those classes. Number two is do a self evaluation. Every once in a while, I want you to sit back, and you may not know how to do this yourself, so you can come to someone like me or your friends, cousins, but I would encourage you to go to someone who can actually ask you the right questions so that you can be able to evaluate yourself and to understand what type of person am I? What are the skills that I possess that I don't even know? What are the things that make me happy? So self-evaluation, in fact, I was reading an article today that talked about assess your interest, values, and personality to develop an understanding of your skills. So self-evaluation, so a lot of people do personality tests to understand that. Again, it's not something that will prescribe what you should do, but it is something worth doing. A self-evaluation. Do not be conditioned the way we were conditioned growing up in Kenya. You have to be a doctor, engineer, whatever, otherwise you're nothing. Self-evaluation is something that you need to do. If there is something inside of you that's crying for to be satisfied in school and in your career, you need to know it. So self-evaluation is very important. So that's the second thing. First thing we talked about um, was making sure that gosh, I just forgot. It just had they call it a brain fart, and I'm doing this live, right? Right? Is you have to be open to taking other classes so you can understand, you can see what other options are available for you. Then second, self-evaluation. Once you self-evaluate and you sort of know what your personality lends itself to and what it is that's of interest in you, what's of interest to you. The third thing is looking at the options that are available. And my oh my, there's never been a better time than now to be able to understand all the options that are available for you. So I'll give you an example. So when I finished high school, I started working at Strathmore College. I was doing like database entry, right? But in doing that, it so happened that I was pretty good at computers. Like people would come to me and say, how do you do this? And I'll do it. How do you do that? And I do it, right? Then when I came to the US, started going to school, I found that my interest was in psychology, right? So I loved it. So my skill set is in tech, my interest is in psychology. So those two seem to be completely different. And even today, people ask me the same thing. Those two are completely different. But here's the thing, I started trying to understand what job opportunities were available in both the fields. And so at that time, Google didn't exist. Yes, it was that long ago. Google didn't even exist. But it was talking with people. Shout out to Collins Makasa, who really helped me understand where the tech career options. Shout out to Nicholas Giconyo, who, we did a lot of tech stuff together. Obviously, Leo Fire, a lot of people for whom we just would engage in conversations. And by engaging in conversations, we'd see what opportunities existed. And I'm not shy to say that part of the motivator behind those opportunities was how much money people were making, right? So look for the opportunities that exist. And in doing this, I'm gonna put it out there, careers.google.com. Careers.google.com. do a search on, let's say software engineer, and then see all the software engineer options that are there. Do a search on, HR business partner, look at all the options that are there. Do a search on program manager, see all the options that are there. This is very important. I'm going to say it like 3 times. Very important, very important, very important. In your head, you could think that this is what I want to do. But how does that translate into a job description which contains minimum requirements and preferred requirements for which you can gauge yourself against? So, number 3, after you do a self evaluation to understand what things interest you, do a search, find out what kinds of jobs map to your interest, to your skills, and to your personality. And they do carry titles. There's a reason why people put in a requisition for HR business partner, for software engineer, for technical program manager, because those are the requirements that they're looking for. So once you see that, what do you do? So you've seen what the job is looking for. You've evaluated, you've done a self evaluation to see what sort of your personality interest map to, and there's going to be a gap. And the question here is, how big is the gap? Is it a big gap that's something that I'm not interested in pursuing? Like, let's say I decided today, I want to look at all my options, which was the first thing. Number 2, my personality test it lends itself to me being in a surgeon. Then number 3, I look at all the surgeon opportunities available. The gap between being a surgeon and where I am now is so big, it's not even worth me doing it. But that's important for you to understand. How big is that gap? So that you can bridge the gap between where you want to be and where you are now. And how do you bridge the gap? It's a question a lot of people ask me. Well, I want to be this type of person, making this amount of money, but I'm here. How do I bridge the gap? Dude, there are tools, there's training, and there's people who can help you bridge the gap. Again, going to my example, through my evaluation, it turned out that, you know what, this networking thing is a thing. This Microsoft thing is a thing. But how do I bridge the gap between where I am working at Carl's Jr., right, to where I want to be working for a telco company, right? And so I did certifications. Back then there was, Cisco Certified Network Administrator, MCSC, MCSC Plus. There were all these certifications that existed. And those certifications helped bridge the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be. And I can tell you a lot of us did this. So I can tell you for a fact, because I see this every day, that was a game changer. Identifying where you want to be and where you are and bridging that gap is a game changer. And sometimes you bridge that gap with academics in school and in college. Sometimes you have to bridge that gap through additional learning like certifications, internships, other things that will give you that experience so that you can bridge that gap. So that's that number 3. That's number 3. Okay, so now in the process of bridging that gap, I still want a job. How do I go about getting a job? I get this from college students all the time. They're like, I'm in college, I don't have experience. The job is asking for a job. The job is asking for experience, but I don't have that experience. So what do I do? So there's no easy answer. And I encourage you, please DM me and I can work with you one-on-one to help you develop this. But I would say that 2 most important things are: 1, your brand, and that's where your resume, CV, your LinkedIn profile comes in. So that's your brand. And number 2 is your relationships. The people you know, the people who can vouch for you. Every single job that I've gotten, and I've worked, I don't know, maybe I worked in 7 or 8 different places. Every single job that I've gotten through some sort of referral, right? And by referral, I'm not necessarily saying, John refers me. I'm saying a referral agent. And that referral agent could be LinkedIn, number 1 referral agent, could be staffing agency, number two, referral agent, or it could be someone speaking on my behalf. So those three are the mighty three. If you want a good job and good career options, those three things have to be top on the list. LinkedIn, the biggest referral agent of all, a staffing agent or staffing agency, and then three, a relationship with someone who can write a recommendation letter, who can talk about you in places, right? Use me. I'm putting it out there. Use me. If you're looking for a job and they say, hey, do you have any references? WhatsApp me, tell me, hey, Uncle Ichi, Cousin Ichi, Brother Ichi, whatever, Dr. Ichi Kwanzaa will work. I need a referral. I'll come back and say, write one, Chat GPT. No, we don't use Chat GPT. Gemini it. I will review it. I'll put in my things and I will submit it for you. Okay? Take advantage of that. Okay? So, LinkedIn, staffing agency, and then referral. Then people ask me, they're like, okay, fine. I mean, what do I write? Um, Again, this depends on every single situation. But here's what I look for when I'm hiring people. And I this is my how do they say these statements are my statements and are not a representative of the company for which I work, right? Most important thing I look for uh, if you are looking for a job, I would argue the person who's wanting to hire you, they are less interested in what you want versus what you can offer them. They're less interested in what you want versus what you can offer them. So oftentimes I see resumes that say, I'm looking for a company that can help me achieve my goals so I can be the best that I can be. Whenever I see something like that, I'm like, next, please. Because all you're offering me in your first statement is what I can do for you. So I always encourage people to reframe it. And instead of what I am looking for, tell me what you can do for me. I'm looking for a company where I can utilize my program management skills to bring efficiency in the company and reduce waste. I'm looking for an opportunity in a company where I can innovate products so that they can increase their revenue. What is it that you are offering to this company? Not what is it that you want the company to do for you. That is if nothing else on your LinkedIn profile, on your resume, on your CV, that first statement, objective, what some people call it objective. There's so many variations of how to write a resume. Again, you can contact me and I can give you tips on that. But the most important thing is your resume has to always speak to what you can do for this company that wants to hire you. And by saying what you can do for this company, then you can go to the next thing and talk about why should the company believe you can do that for them. And that's where you put things like things you've done in the past. Accomplished this by doing this and partnering with these people. Let me read something. I'd written this so I can write it, right? Accomplished X is measured by Y and by doing Z, right? So even in college, you can do this. Grew club from 50 to 100 members through enhanced recruiting techniques. 10 industry visits, spearheaded monthly speaker engagement series. So you're in college, you're trying to do things that maybe are not specifically career or job related, but you're bringing people together. Write about it. Created a club to help marginalized youth to understand how to use technology to better themselves. That is awesome because when I see that, I'm like, wow, so this person can do that. This person thinks like that, even though they may not have experience in deploying data center capabilities for the network. They have the ability of mobilizing people putting an objective and mobilizing people around that objective and actually achieving it. So those kind of things are the ones that then practically make sense for me to have a conversation with you. And then once I have a conversation with you, then maybe, you get the job, right? So again, it's hard to paint a broad brush. And so certainly if there's something more specific you want to talk about, let me know. But for today, I just wanted to give you sort of those tips about the early career. Where do I get that early career? So I'm gonna rehash what I spoke about. I hope I didn't forget, right? The first thing is sort of exploring your options, understanding that even if you're in school and you're pursuing a certain major, you need to open yourself up to other things that will allow you to pick your interest, identify your skills, right? And your personality. So if you're in computer science, take, an HR class. If you're in HR, take a IT class. If you're in nursing, take I don't know, not Microsoft, cloud computing class, right? So just dibble and dab in things that may not be part of your career, or where your degree is giving you, but it opens you up to other things. Again, the example I gave was, I came in thinking I would do marketing. I was in BCom in Kenya. Then suddenly I took a psychology class. I'm like, wow, I love that. Then I took a networking class. I'm like, wow, I love that too. But by taking those classes, that broadens you to actually identify what your interests are. The second thing is self-evaluation. Make sure you evaluate who you are, what your interests are. Do a big five personality test. Understand who you are. And by doing that, you start mapping who you are and what your interests are to a job, which is step number three. Identifying what does that ideal job look like. Google it, careers.google.com, search for it, and then identify what the gap is between the requirements they have and what you have, and try to see if you can bridge the difference. That was number three. And then number four, from a practical, pragmatic side, understanding that the best way to get jobs is through referral. And the biggest referrer for you is LinkedIn, staffing agency, and friends, or people who understand that industry, who can refer you. And I want you to really sharpen your resume to speak to impact. Think about what I said. When I'm looking to hire someone, I I really get turned off when someone says, I'm looking for a job where I can. I want you to reframe that to, I'm looking for a job where I can provide, and then provide what you've done. And for those of you who are in college and don't think you've done something significant, anything you've done where you're mobilizing people towards something, any project you've done which has a deliverable, anything you've done that has impact, I want you to write about it. And there's so many tips I can give you about that. So contact me if you want that. So I think that's the beginning of the journey. I do want to say one other thing that for me really helped. So I'm going through this journey in college, doing my Carl's Jr. thing, sort of doing these certifications to bridge the gap. I'm trying to learn all these other skills, these supporting skills is what I'll call them. But throughout all of that, I was always reading and learning. Um, I want to say back in the day, because it was back in the day. Back in the day, we didn't have audiobooks, right? Honestly, back in the day, there were no audiobooks, right? And so my method of learning was, I used to subscribe to magazines, all right? I think the magazine, it was like Info Week or Tech Week or something like that. So I'd get a magazine every week and I would read. I would just constantly read it because I wanted to understand what was going on in industry so that I can understand how I can play a role in in shaping that industry. So for me, it was tech. What's the latest thing? Oh, now they can, scan money and the money goes into the bank. Wow, that's a big thing. Let me learn about that. Oh, people are getting hacked. Okay, let me learn about hacking. Oh, biometrics are coming out. Let me learn about that, right? So I encourage you, beyond what you're learning in school, is to look at industry publications, books, or and now there's a lot of audiobooks, and just get that learning, because that's what you bring into the workplace, and that makes you provides differentiation between you and someone else. Um, so yeah, I really needed to put that because I I feel that a lot of my early career was driven by decisions I made because of industry publications I'd read, which made me curious, which made me ask questions, which made me implement things. So I encourage you to do so. So I've rambled a lot. Maybe it's because I'm excited that England won. Woo-hoo! Yeah, I'm so excited. Uh, I've rambled a lot, but I hope somewhere there today, in today's Wezesha Wednesday, someone out there who maybe this is not what you're interested in hearing, but maybe your nephew, your niece, your son, your daughter, your child, maybe this is something that could benefit them because they're trying to figure out, where do I go with early career progression? Oh, well, with early career, how do I start my career? How do I kickstart my new career if that's what's happening for someone who currently works? Send them my way, send them this link. And yeah, remember IPS: interest, personality, skills. They don't have to all be the same. They could be mutually exclusive. Something you're interested in may not be the same thing you're very skilled at, or your personality may not lend itself to. And understanding those three makes you make this critical decision. And I'm going to wrap up with this. The critical decision oftentimes is not, what do I want to be when I grow up? What do I want my career to be? Because sometimes that's a very difficult question to answer. Sometimes what's even more important is, what do I not want my career to be? What do I not want to be when I grow up? And at least that gets all that stuff out of the way. And then you can focus on, okay, let me work through understanding where my interests, my personality, and skill sets merge well to something that I can call a job, moolah, or career options progression. So hope that was helpful. See you. I really will try next Wednesday. I'm going to try. It's either going to be next Wednesday or the Wednesday after, but this time I'm going to target those of you who are knee deep in your careers and you're looking for that either career progression, or you're looking for tips on how to better, position yourselves for growth, for promo, for more money, right? So I'm gonna have a Wezesha Wednesday just on that. So this is not gonna be for early career people. This is gonna be for mid to advanced career people. So that's what I plan to do the next week or the week after. And then I will switch and do another Wezesha Wednesday on people who are trying to grow their business, and those who are in roles that are very strategic. And I'll do a couple of Wezesha Wednesdays on that, because that's some heavy stuff that I'd like to share with you. But for now, those of you in early career, hopefully this was helpful. Let me know if it helped. Let me know if you have additional questions, additional information. Share with your kids, share with your nephews, nieces, sons, daughters, those people who could benefit from some of these tips. If you forget anything about what we've talked about, just remember IPS: interest, personality, skill. Those three. Make sure you evaluate those three things, and I promise you'll be on your way to a lucrative career. Deuces, Wezesha Wednesday.